So welcome back to our training videos here. This is session 5 and I'm going to go through now. I'm primarily just going to go through the lesson because that's what's new to each session, and by now I think you pretty much have the format of how to start with some kind of conversation, some kind of icebreaker, some kind of warm-up. I kind of like a warm-up. It's kind of like, if you're coming to an exercise class, you don't just want to walk in and boom, start working out, start doing a lot of, intense exercise. You want to warm up a little bit, warm up slowly, have a little stretch, that's kind of what you're doing, the opening time. Now you could customize your opening for this one with a question. As you'll hear more about the lesson, this question will make sense. Can you think of a time, or you could say this for the lesson itself, but you decide. But a question is, can you think of a time when you tried to make a change and people around you were not supportive? Or can you think of a time when you tried to make a change and people were supportive? That's kind of a segue into this lesson. So once you've done your kind of, however you're doing it in your own way, then you're opening and you're kind of forming the group, reforming the group. Then when it's time for the lesson, so this lesson, session 5, is called Systemic Dynamics and Change. And basically what we're teaching here is that when one person, we all live in systems, meaning that we all live in relational systems, whether that relational system is people we live with, our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, our family. We all live in relational systems. And the best way to think about a system, I don't think it's in the lesson, but a good teaching tool, if you actually had one, you could bring a picture, but if you don't have one, but if you actually had one, is to bring a mobile. The mobile, like a mobile, commonly you see them hanging on a baby's crib or a child's room, but sometimes you'll see them out in public spaces too. A mobile hangs from the ceiling or hangs from some kind of device over a crib, and then it has lots of moving parts. It has lots, anywhere from 2, 3, maybe 5 or 6 different things. You could have a mobile of the solar system. You could have a mobile of just shapes and anything. So think of a mobile, and it's hanging there, and it's got, say, 5 or 6 different pieces on it, and it's in balance. It finds its balance, and it's at rest. Now, if you come and move one of those pieces, if you lift one of those pieces up, or you shake it, you move it back and forth, what will happen? It will affect all the other pieces in the system, right? If you change one piece in the system, if you move one piece in it, it will move everything else. And so that is what we mean by a system, a relational system. So now translate that to what individuals, adults, are working on in this program. They're working on making their own changes. So when an adult makes a change, sometimes the system, the relationships around them, will support that change, and sometimes they will not. Sometimes the change will create a storm, meaning a disruption in the system. So an obvious one would be a group of people who are heavy drinkers, and that's their friendship is kind of organized around that. Their activities are organized around that. They drink a lot when they're together. They party on a regular basis. Now one person decides they want to go into recovery. Whoa, that's going to create a huge storm, and chances are the people in their current system, their current groups of friends, are not going to be supportive of that. They're going to try to undermine the change, make fun of the person, tease them, say, hey, you're no fun anymore, and we don't like hanging out with you. Come on, you can have a drink, just don't drink as much, whatever, do all these kind of things because they don't like the storm. It's creating a storm, a disruption in the system. And that's why people, when they go into recovery, they need to get new groups of friends, new supports, such as a 12-step group, and then meeting people through that. Because we need community, we need support. Same thing, if you had a group of friends that, never went to church or never exercised and then all of a sudden one person wanted to start doing that, they might make fun of that. It might again block it. Or in a healthy system, they would totally support it. They would support a change that you're making. But even there, it still can be a disruption. So I think one of the examples we have in here is, let's say a child is leaving home. All natural life transitions can create a storm. A storm is not a negative thing. It's a negative thing if it doesn't get resolved. Anytime we make a change, when I was pastoring a church, I would never just do it myself, but let's say we were going to change the worship time, or we were going to change the worship music or the style of worship after we had, done some planning, or we were going to change the building, or we were going to change some program. When that is first announced and brought out into the congregation, it is not met with thunderous, approval. It's like, what? We've always done it this way. We've always done it that way. We've never done it that way. And so it creates a little bit of a storm. But in a healthy system and with good leadership, over time, this is what the diagram on the page on the booklet shows, the storming begins to develop a new norm. And so the people get used to the new worship time, the new worship style. Maybe you lose a few people, but people start to like it. It starts to become the new norm. And then the system starts performing well again. Things are good. And so all changes, all stages of life, retirement, having a child, leaving home, entering a relationship, that can create a storm. If a bunch of friends are single and one person starts dating, that creates a change. So a storm is not a negative thing. Just like storms come, weather storms come all the time, and we need those. We need precipitation. We need the changes of the weather. But if you get stuck in any one of these stages, then you have a problem. Any new group that is working together. If you've ever taken an example that comes to my mind, when I was younger, I did a lot of youth ministry. When I take a youth group, like on a wilderness trip or on a service trip, and we all start out with great expectations. Everybody's excited, and but it's a week-long trip. So by about day 2 or 3, the storming starts. People start to get on each other's nerves. They start to get irritated. This isn't what I thought I ended up for. This is harder than I thought it was, or it's too hot, or I don't like the work. And then you can just predict it, and then you're going to have to go through that until then you come out the other side and you rebalance. Just like that system, that mobile, if you move one of the pieces or add weight to one of the pieces, the system has to rebalance now, and it will, and then it can perform again. So it's just a good way to think about it. We have an example here. 4 coworkers at work are all at the same level and are good friends. One of them gets picked for a promotion and is now associated with a new group of colleagues. A storm is sure to follow. So again, all change can create, the old normal is gone. This is like looking at the comfort zone, growth zone, panic zone, but looking at it in terms of systems. Okay, I remember when I coached youth soccer. If a new player would come on, especially if it was a really good player, and they decided to switch teams and come onto our team, it's like, whoa, who's this new kid? And he thinks he's hot stuff, or she thinks she's hot stuff, and and then there's a little kind of jockeying for position, but eventually the new system gets reformed and the change happens. So it's just important to remember that when we are making change, sometimes it will create storms in people around us, and we just need to work through that. If a person is in a relationship and they decide they're going to make a significant change, they want to make a significant change, whether it's work-related or whatever. They decide they want to go back to school. They decide they want to, start training for a marathon or something. They're going to ask for the support because, hey, I know my change is going to affect you, and so I need your support, and I would love for you to be able to support me in making this change. And so just know that some storming and some disruption. That's how we know, right? Remember we said all growth is, by definition, is uncomfortable because it's outside of the comfort zone. It means you are doing something that you haven't done before. And so this is just a way of taking that and talking about it in terms of systems. Now, again, the more you can get people to share their own examples, and that's what I started with that question, when they when has a group of people supported you in making a change, and when have they resisted it, and when have you maybe had to get new friends or get a new support system to help you make change? Have you ever led change? Have you ever had to lead change and lead a system through change where there was some storming? And I'll just say a quick word about the false norming that's in the diagram. False norming just simply means, oh, it's not, we pretend, we're in denial. Oh, it's not a big deal. You can still come out with us to the bars, and we don't care you don't drink. And the person would say, oh yeah, I can. And the person that's now in recovery, oh yeah, sure, I can just still hang out with my old friends. I can go to the bars all the time, just like I used to. I just won't drink. It's not, nothing's changed. That's a false norming, where we are faking it, or there's a disruption in a family. Like I say, a child leaves home, where there's a loss. A divorce or an end of a relationship, to pretend that that's not, disruptive and going to have to do some work to rebalance the system. It's like pretending that, the mobile isn't shifting. So that's kind of a fake norming, that everything's okay when it's not. So that's the systemic dynamics change. Again, as in any kind of process, the key is to not get stuck. In fact, actually, when we're informing, there's actually another stage. I've seen this drawn up, another diagram, to stay with the rhyming scheme that has dorming, D-O-R-M-I-N-G, as part of forming, meaning that a system can get stuck. It can go to sleep. It can just kind of get unconscious and get stuck in a rut. Then it needs to reform. And reforming is going to create, some new storming, some new disruptions, some new norming. In a sense, what you're leading people through in a wellness circle is this process. They're self-creating a quote storm, a disruption, because they're doing something different. They're going through the J curve. They're going through the comfort zone into the growth zone. We don't want them to go in the panic zone. We want to lead them through the storm, and we actually are trying to help them create a new norm, the new habits that you're trying to create a new norm, so that they can perform at a better level, at a higher level, a level that they feel called to do. So from a Christian point of view, this is what Jesus was doing all the time. He was creating storms because he was disrupting the norms of the current norms of the religious leaders of his day, of the political leaders of his day, and he was literally creating storms. That's why people were so unhappy with him. And early Christianity was very subversive and very much a threat to the culture, and that's why so many people were persecuted. And so spiritual leaders, whether it's Gandhi, whether it's Martin Luther King, whether it's Nelson Mandela, whether it's Mother Teresa in her own way, whether it's prophetic, prophets are always trying to create storms, but for healthy, they're trying to create healthy change and wake up systems that have gone to sleep and are unconscious. So again, that's how I think about this. What's more important now is how you think about it, how you make this your own, how you bring it to life in your own conversations with people. So that's the teaching component of session 5, and you know the drill by now. So the rest of the session is checking in. There's the coaching part now, and you're going to ask people to report on their action steps from the previous week. You're looking back. How did that go? And maybe they'll even, what's nice is as people go on, sometimes they start working in some of the language as they're working in on their action steps of the lessons. And then you're going to have them complete this on page 17, fill it out for the upcoming week, and then share their coaching goals, their action steps for the upcoming week. So that's the coaching part, and then do some kind of close. It could be again, if it's a Christian context, it could be a prayer, a scripture, it could be a quote from the back, it could be a poem, however you want to do it. And just know that every group and every session actually can be different, but every group is different. Some really groove on the lessons, some really love the lessons and want to have lots of conversation about that, and they're applying it to their lives. Others want to really, go deep into coaching and spend a lot of time on that. So again, there's flexibility built into the program, and I never like to, if sometimes I'll just check in with the group. So if we're really getting into a lesson and people are really enjoying it, and I'm watching the clock, which is always the key thing to do as a facilitator, you're always managing time, I'll say, Now, do we want to keep, this is a great conversation. Do we want to keep talking about the systemic dynamics and change, or are you ready to switch to the coaching now? And you can kind of just, you can adapt that for your group. Again, the whole program is flexible. All right, hope this is all very helpful to you. Thank you again. These groups do not happen without you. And so glad that you're interested in learning how to do this, and know that what you're learning here, you will end up using in some creative way. It may not be obvious yet, but it will become clear. And so thanks so much, and I'll be back with the final screencast for session 6, which I'll record shortly.